For the second page, it says, my instructor and others have said that the language or lexis develops according to the needs and functions of a community. For example, a lot of communities have developed their own word for poop. Language might also develop to determine who the insiders are in the community and to keep the outsiders out. Do you agree with either or both of these statements? Can you give examples of how language operates in either or both of these ways in your community?
I can't give any specific examples right now, but definitely especially to my community of government contracting, there's different terms and language used by government contractors. There's, then the different level of IT. There's definitely terms and phrases within IT that are different from when I'm dealing with finance or contracting people. So there's even sub-communities within my discourse communities where finance has their own language, contracting has their own language, IT has their own language, HR, payroll has their own language. And sometimes we even have a term that's has different meanings depending on whether you're in HR, IT, or...
Can you think of a specific term that would be different for you than it would be for someone else?
Like organizational unit or home department. Okay. So HR has different classifications of employees than from IT, than from management or contracts. I can't think of it as something that's...
You don't have any fancy lingo that your specific IT group could talk about that other parts of the department wouldn't understand? Or... Because if we go back to Mom's interview, it talked about, she's a nurse. Nurses have their own kind of language that, of course, they talk in that anybody who's just, not really a part of that world would not understand at all if they said it. So is there any kind of, things that you can think of that you talk about in your community that any type of certain words or some type of language that you would use that you talk about that not many other people would understand?
No, it's all the technical terms of CPU, gigahertz, memory storage capacity, RAM, servers versus services. For example, services is stuff running on a server software that but then services for somebody else's. And actually, that's a service, a finance service or a payroll service.
Pam?
I can't think of any specific example, but being database administration and this administration, they each have their own technical terms that only DBAs understand and system administrators understand, but I can't say they've got words that other people wouldn't understand. It's a concept that people, if you don't know how to be a DBA, you're not going to understand what they're talking about. If you don't know system administration and understand about servers and connectivity and so on and so forth, you're never going to understand it. So if you haven't worked in an IT development group that knows how to develop databases and how that's all used, you would never understand it. So it's in and of itself, all of their language is only specific to them, and not something that just a person who's not in the IT world could just walk in and join the conversation. Let's put it that way.
Right. Yeah. Well, in IT, there's even language has meaning, depending on the context of the system or the technology. They were like Java versus mainframe, or some share same acronyms with different meaning.
Mm-hmm.
So IT is definitely, even within ourselves, is segmented. And then again, back to a lot of talking about Hyper-V or server, or that has totally no meaning unless you've worked in the technology.
Second question, or second part of that question. What about genres? How do the needs of your workplace community explain the textual genre it uses? So, I guess for like the different types of communication that you do, like the emails and instant messaging and everything, would there be any specific examples you could give?
Not sure I understand the question.
Going back to the first question, saying how Lexis or language develops according to the needs of the function of the community, it might also develop to determine who the insiders are in a community and to keep the outsiders out. For like the genres, so like the different types of communication you do, how do the needs of your workplace explain why it uses that language?
Since the group is spread all over the world, they're forced to use email to communicate their thoughts, questions, and resolutions to problems, and they have to be very precise. So the genre that they pick has to be amongst themselves. They have to understand what they're describing or what they're explaining. So the Lexis of the group, they all have to understand what they're reading, because nothing is communicated face to face.
Well, yeah, I think it's based on just knowing what the audience is of those communications within IT team. We would have more technical jargon, more informal writing versus having to report on a problem resolution that management will see. That would have to be, again, a higher level, not as much detailed, filled with less jargon, and ensuring that any technical terms are well defined. Is that like?
Yeah.
One of that?
Close enough. Second question. My instructor and others have said that the 6 characteristics of a discourse community can explain how a discourse community functions, survives, succeeds, and thrives. Have you witnessed your community move through these different phases at times? Have you witnessed individuals within your community move through these different phases at times? What role did the characteristics play to explain movement through these different phases? So, going back to how your community functions, survives, succeeds, and thrives, have you witnessed your community going through that, and have you witnessed specific individuals going through that in your workplace?
As they've added new team members to the DBA team or the SA team, those people have to come up to speed, so it takes them a while to be comfortable to ask questions if they don't understand something, and or explain the issue that they're trying to research to the more senior members of the DBA team. And I've seen that hurt sometimes when they're working on a client-reported problem. If they don't communicate well through these email and chats of what their issues are or questions, it sometimes delays the response time to the client until everybody gets on the same page. So sometimes that hurts the system, hurts the group, because it looks like the group is slow to respond to an issue when really it's just trying to understand what the issue is, because the person who's working on it is not as comfortable in the subject matter as someone else. So it takes some time to work through the group to get the right people's focus and at the same time train the junior members of the group so that they become more comfortable over time and become very, very much productive to the entire group.
Yeah, well, within the IT community, it's just a natural progression. Typically in IT, people have really difficult time communicating, especially written communications. So definitely all the members of my team struggle early on to just articulate in writing what they're doing or kind of reporting on status. But it's just over time, you just have to train, mentor them on just how to effectively communicate their ideas, their technical ideas, into words.
What qualities, skills, or characteristics are looked for to determine that newcomers are likely to successfully enculturate themselves into your discourse community? What are some examples of what they might not be expected to know, but would be expected to learn within a particular time frame in order to more fully enculturate themselves into your discourse community?
Yeah, for us, it's there's just a wide variety of technology in place that not all IT people get exposure to. So it's a for example, email has its own set of technologies, or desktop support has its own set of technologies. So it's a matter of gaining the experience on the various technologies. You know.
Like, for going to the what quality, skills, or characteristics I look for to determine the newcomers are likely to be successful. So, let's say someone's trying to get a job there. What is looked for in, like, the hiring process or something to determine if they're able to work there?
I think in either one of our cases, it has to be that they could demonstrate that they have the technical skills required to fulfill their job duties. The second part of it is to be able to articulate their thought processes so that they can very easily meld into the group. But like in anything, they have to learn how the group interacts with each other so that they feel comfortable coming into the conversation at any point, and or being able to admit when they don't understand something to say, wait a minute, somebody needs to explain this to me a little better, and then they're easily brought along until they're comfortable with everything.
So can you think of something that they might not be expected to know but would be expected to learn? So you're saying they have to learn the different, like, how to be comfortable talking to each other, but they wouldn't expect to know, like, that these people are laid back in this way in order to communicate. So saying, like, you know, someone jumps in and they're, like, all formal and everything, and you guys might be not so formal with each other, they might be expected to learn to know, kind of, learn to...
I'd say in my case, being the kind of group that we are, and being that we are spread all over the world, it's more of cultural getting used to each other. Between American work styles and Indian work styles and Russian work styles and all that thing, and it's more culture clashes that are worked through than technical knowledge. They're all technically capable of doing their job, but sometimes one culture is not as comfortable as saying they don't understand something as, say, the American culture is more willing to speak up when they don't understand something, or even speak up when they don't agree with something, whereas the Indian culture, over the years, there are people that won't speak up just because that's the way their culture is. They don't question things. They just put on a good face and say, sure, okay, even if they don't understand. They won't admit that they don't understand to a higher level manager.
Yeah, for me, my challenge is
wait. Okay, keep going.
My challenge is doing, supporting IT with for a small business, but we're trying to do large business things. So, for me, for my group, we're a small number group trying to do a lot of different things. So, people I look for is people who are willing to learn. They're people who are flexible and willing to work on a lot of different things. There's certain IT professions, they only like to do one thing.